you can't do anything about the UI. You don't care about the UI. You only care about state, logic, and effects, and you get all the information you need inside the DevTools. Okay, hello. Finally, I found time to make another video. I've been sick for a couple of weeks. You know, having a kid, they bring home all kinds of viruses and stuff from kindergarten. And you don't get like stay in bed sick, but you feel like shit. Like me, I have to pop pills to just get anything done because you feel feverish and it's not good. And there's been some vacation time in between there as well. I'm still not like 100%, but I'm feeling good. Glad to be back at being productive. So I have been coding a little bit. So I'm going to show you this app I've been working on in Flutter and show you some more state management concepts there because I've been iterating a bit. And I've also been coding a little bit on a concept in Overmind, because I'm having a presentation in Oslo on a meetup. I don't really want that presentation to be like what is Overmind now. I want to kind of like envision what Overmind can be, because we do have a vision beyond being just solving like state management on the level we're doing now, because I think there's so much more we can do there. But let's talk about this app first. So my girlfriend and me, we are similar on some points and different on other points. And this is very typical in relationships. And it's typically related to how you handle stress. So when I'm stressed, I like to shut down. I like to play games. I don't want to talk. I can sit and code and do stuff like that. While my girlfriend, she needs to talk. She thinks about all this stuff that needs to be done. I can just shut that off. She can't. So either she has to... So typically what would happen, she would come home, either one of us was stressed, and she needed to talk about something, some plans or whatever, and we would get into these, these small conflicts. And it didn't get any better after we got our daughter, because then the general stress level is much higher. But the way we solve this, and it's kind of funny because I didn't think about this as a startup, but we actually did the right steps, because we had a problem, well, not a big problem, but we wanted to make this better. So we tried to find some existing tools, and what we found is Trello. So what we decided to do is during the week, Monday to Friday, we don't bring up anything, like no plans, things that can happen later, things we want to change or whatever. Of course, we talk about all other stuff, like how our day was and just normal good stuff, but nothing that causes the higher stress level. And then during that week, we just put it into Trello. And then every Saturday or Sunday, we sit down together, we go through Trello, talk about all the stuff that needs to be talked about, we make some nice food, well, usually my girlfriend does, and we plan the next week. So that's the concept. And it has worked really well for us, but Trello isn't really, like, it's nice, but it has some issues, like, because it's not built for this kind of thing. So I thought, why not use Flutter and try to build this experience as good as possible? Okay, so that's the introduction. And this is the app. I'm just calling it Family Scrum because it's kind of like based on stuff from work. And what you see here is the current day and what I'm going to do and what my girlfriend is going to do. And if you don't understand Norwegian, this is about bringing and getting Emma, our daughter, home from kindergarten. And then I can swipe through to see the next days. And And I can go in here, and whenever I come up with something we have to talk about, I can click here and I can write something, and alternatively I can set a date if it's related to a specific date, like the meetup I'm doing on the 13th of June. And then we have, because we're also doing our shopping in Trello, and it's kind of annoying because you have to write down everything every time. So what we've done here is that we have this groceries thing where we have different categories based on how the typical layout of shops are, or like grocery stores. So you have like fruit and vegetables, meat and dairy, frozen, dry goods and cans, and other stuff. Like, I haven't designed this, so the icons are really weird. But the point is that we usually shop the same stuff. Or buy the same stuff. So, for example, we want some cucumber and orange, and we can just put this in. And we'll do this on our weekly meeting as well. Just go through everything. What do we need? And then when one of us actually, or both of us, goes to the store, we can go on this shop thing. And here it displays by category whatever we need to buy. And then when we click it, we take it off the list. And another cool feature here is that the screen actually stays on when you're inside this mode, like this context of the app, the screen stays on. And then when we have our meeting, we go to this last slide here and then plan next week. And what this does is show us everything we did last week, because usually you want to do the same thing next week. And then it shows whatever else we have put into the backlog, as we call it. And then at the end, we have whatever is by date. So the point here is that she sits with her phone and I sit with my phone, and then we just go through it. So for example, next week, I'm going to pick up our daughter on Wednesday and Friday, the same days. And then we go through everything, and what we hope this does is kind of like encourage us to do something on a specific day. So for example, we have to order some airplane tickets for my mother. Well, actually for us, we're going to visit my mother. And then actually when we have the days here, we can just say, okay, which one does this? And then tap the day. And because we're kind of like procrastinating on stuff. But anyways, this is like the latest concept, and oops. I'm still working on figuring out the best way to do this. But anyways, that's kind of like the app. And the reason I'm talking to you about it is because I think I want to kind of like release this. Because there's a website here as well where you can register a family so that it syncs the data live. And then I'm thinking like taking a small amount each month for kind of like managing that data synchronization. And maybe that might be a kind of like a second income or something. But the thing is, like, we're doing this for ourselves. We don't know if other people would benefit from this. But the goal here is not the app. The goal here is to avoid talking about stuff during the week when you're on your highest stress level, and have this calm meeting on Saturday and Sunday where you rather go through stuff. So you're more in tune with what's going on and stuff like that. Anyways, it's been too much abstract stuff. Let's look at some code. So if you watch my previous video, I talked about Dart, which is a programming language you use with Flutter. And I haven't done like any changes to that because that's how it works, but I've made changes to how the state works. So now there is only something called an observable. So this is actually very much like how MobX works. So the way it works is that you box in any value you want to track. So typically you want to track all state like this. And you can give it an initial value. And then you can also do the same thing on the models. So I have a few models here. For example, a backlog item. And on these class instances, I actually want to track certain changes. So if we change the description, I want to track that. If I change the datetime, I want to track that. The ID never changes, so I don't need to track that. And then we have computed. So computed is basically just a value as well, just like observable, but it kind of like accesses other state, and then it tracks it, and then whenever any of that dependent state changes, it will flag itself as dirty, and the next time the computed value is something tries to grab that computed value, it will recalculate. So it doesn't constantly recalculate, only when you actually grab try to grab the value. And it looks like this. It's just using the other state to produce new state. And it's surprisingly complex. Like the app is surprisingly complex. In terms of state management. But it's really nice how it works now, because for example, if I go to the main screen here, all I have to do, for example here, I have this floating action button, and I just call observe with a callback, and whatever's inside this observe, whatever state it accesses, it will re-render when something happens to that state. So for example, here I'm grabbing the family. So if something happens to the family, it will re-render. And what does that mean? Like if something happens to the family? So let's look into the actions here. So for example, here we can see, we can take a look. Yeah, so let's see here. Okay, so first of all, these observable states or values, you can set a value on them directly like this. And of course you can get the value, but you can also, as you can see here, you can actually set a stream, because in Dart and Flutter especially, you use a lot of streams related to, for example, Firebase. So you can make state value use a stream. So for example, if you're streaming data from Firebase, you can attach that to an observable, but you can still push your own values to it. So for example here, I'm actually waiting for I'm streaming an invitation code from the server, because this code will be removed by the system. So I want to kind of like nullify that code when the server tells me so. But I still want to set the initial code. So you can kind of like combine and play around with this. So you can attach streams, but still add new values to that stream manually, which I think is really nice, because only using streams and not treating them as values, especially related to state, is just, it's too low level. It's kind of like you're kind of going around what you want to do all the time. But in this concept, you just do exactly what you want, at least what I want. But you can also change. So days is also an observable. So instead of doing set, you can do change, which means that you get the current value, you make changes to it, and then you return it. And then that causes a change to the days. And for me, this has worked beautifully. Like I'm just working on my app. Like all I have to think about is what do I want to observe in the widgets, which is super nice. Okay, I think this is going to be a long episode. So let's move on. Let's move on to this Overmind thing I've been working on. Let's see, let's take down that one, like this. Okay, so what have I been doing? Let's see here, let's close this down, and then I'm going to refresh the debugger just to show you the start of this. Oh, my computer is having a hard time doing all this stuff. Okay, let's see. Oh, come on. This is real. Let me close down this simulator. It usually has a high cost on my processor. Okay. So now we have a change on the DevTools. Now you can, instead of waiting for your app to connect, you can actually connect to your app. And why do you want to do that? And the thing with Overmind is that what my vision is that I think the browser is a really bad tool to verify, to use when you implement state and logic and effects. It doesn't make any sense to have like a UI thing. Of course, it runs the JavaScript runtime, which you have to actually run the code. But everything, like the DOM, it doesn't matter. Like, it has nothing to do with state and logic and all that stuff. So what if you had a tool that was actually designed for state and effects and all that stuff? And this is what I'm thinking about here. So now I'm firing up just a tiny application that only brings in Overmind. I'm doing this in pure JavaScript now. And then I can connect to it. And as you can see here, we have this new thing, runtime. This is just some debugging info. And we have connected to our app and it's running. So what we're going to do is we don't care about the UI at all. I really hate this process of starting out with the UI so that you have something to trigger to run logic and state changes. I think it should be the other way around. Like, you should work on your app and your state and your effects in a very efficient UI for doing that. And then you can consume this state and all that stuff in the UI later. Maybe someone else can do that. So what I mean here is that we have our app on the right side, we have the DevTools on the left. So imagine this is like a browser for implementing state and effects. So let's add some state here, foo bar. And when I save that, we see it pops up in the DevTools. And of course I can add some more state here, but that's not the point. What I want now is to actually implement some logic. So what I want to do is create some action. I want to change foo with a value. And then I say state foo equals value. And I save that. And now I want to test this. So what I can do is choose my action, change foo. And then I can do this and I can run it. And now I can see that, okay, change foo is running the way it should. And then I can maybe effects, I didn't prepare this, upper text, return text to uppercase, something like that. And then we have effects. And we can say effects to uppercase, upper text value. And then we can try to run it again. And then we see that, okay, we're running upper text and we get boo back and it does what it's supposed to do. And I think this is a really nice way to develop your app. Like you can't do anything about the UI. You don't care about the UI. You only care about state, logic, and effects, and you get all the information you need inside the DevTools. And you can imagine moving on here, creating more effects, mocking stuff out, and there's probably a bunch of stuff we can do here to kind of like support this way of programming. But this is really what I want to do on this meetup presentation. I want to kind of like show this off, kind of like build a tiny app with this approach, and kind of like not saying that this is the future, but it kind of like opens up this different world of building apps. We're so used to using the browser, but it's but we don't need it. We could have a so much better tool for developing apps in terms of state management and effects and all that stuff. Okay, so this is way overdue now. Thanks again for supporting me. I'm sorry I haven't been able to do so much Overmind and Cerebral and open source in general the last 2 weeks, but again, I've been sick and having vacation. But as you can see, I'm back in the game and really looking forward to see where this will go. So have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you next week.